afternoon, everyone. I love the theme for next year. Thanks for sharing, Una. It's hard to imagine that our guest speaker needs to be introduced today. For anyone living in the immediate area, if you don't know, our good pal, Valerie Pritchett from ABC 27 News. We're so excited to have her here. Better late than never, we say. So glad the timing worked out within this year. So if you know Valerie, you see her on the news several times a day. You also probably see her equally, if not more so, out and about in our community. She is the epitome of servant leadership. I think we were just talking about how to learn the word no every once in a while. And that's a hard habit to follow. And you know that if you're a true Rotarian in spirit and heart, service above self is what Valerie demonstrates each and every day in our community for such a variety of organizations. Valerie's passion for giving children in Pennsylvania a world in which to grow and thrive was sparked by a foster mother she met who cared for dozens of infants in need. As a result, she created Val's Kids. This special segment shares stories of children looking for adoptive homes throughout the statewide adoption and permanency network. Val's Kids airs on ABC News 7 at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays and Sundays at 6 p.m. So lend a helping hand, make a referral, reach out for one of Val's Kids if you know someone who's looking for those homes. Valerie's production and reporting of Operation Safe Kids, a feature promoting fire safety and installation of smoke alarms, was instrumental in ABC 27 winning a Service to Community Award from the National Association of Broadcasters, one of the highest honors that a television station can achieve. Her love of Central Pennsylvania drives her as an active community volunteer, serving as a board member for the Salvation Army Advisory Board, United Way of the Capital Region, Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, shout out Jen. Her work for nonprofits also include Harrisburg Police Athletic League, American Cancer Society, Harrisburg Symphony, and of course, along with her trusted friend under the table, if you haven't seen Mala yet, raising puppies for Susquehanna Service Dogs. So Val, the stage is yours.
Well, it's certainly a pleasure to be here with you finally. I knew I was supposed to speak earlier this year, but we had a good friend that had a death in the family, and so I needed to be there. And I appreciate your patience in me getting here. So as you heard, I do anchor a 5, 7, and 11 p.m. newscast. And we're a little stressed today because basketball's on. I've decided I no longer like basketball because that means we will not go on until probably midnight tonight. And for those of you who are diehard, we appreciate you hanging on and watching us tonight, but totally understand if you want to go to sleep. So a little bit about where I started. I am an Air Force brat. My father was in the Air Force, my mother a teacher. And so we traveled here and there and everywhere, but I really call New Jersey home. That's my formative years. And I loved growing up on the base. I loved the life. I loved the structure. I loved how my life changed and moved and was different. And I think it really prepared me for the world today because I adapt pretty easily, on a dime. And I just really appreciated the support that my family gave me as I was growing up. So I decided to high school. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. And I had a teacher. We actually had our own television station in the school. And so we had to do a commercial for like marketing or something. And the teacher said, why don't you think about TV? I'm like, okay. And then I fell in love with it. And I don't know if any of you know anybody in the Philly area, but there's Channel 6 Action News. And I always wanted to say, Valerie Pritchett, Channel 6 Action News. And I wanted to say PennDOT. Well, needless to say, I've been saying PennDOT a lot because I just moved a few hours closer to PennDOT. And so that's where my career really began. Take off. I was actually in high school, graduated. Ended up going to 2 different universities, much to my parents' dismay, because I had to form my own curriculum. And so I was a 5-year planner. But my mom said it worked out to my benefit. I didn't know I was doing that. So I graduated. I worked in South Jersey at a little station called WMGM TV. And if any of you ever go to Avalon, it was that little itty bitty icky place that's sad as you go over the causeway to go onto the island. And I also worked at New Jersey Network News for a while as an intern. I graduated and I was like so excited, because I graduated from college and like my last summer off, and I got 2 job offers right away. And I said to my mom, well, I was thinking of taking the summer. She goes, no, your last summer was your last summer off, your junior year. So, obviously I was very blessed. I got a job right away and I started working at WMGM, which is now, they've changed it to South Jersey News, so it's not there anymore. But I started working there and did every job that they had to offer. And then meantime, I was still going back and forth back to my house. And I, in between, became a water safety instructor. So I taught lifeguarding. And I also became an emergency medical technician to give back in my community. And I remember it was funny because being an EMT, just the craziness of it all, and the calls in the middle of the night, and the crazy people that you meet sometimes, and those who really, really, really need your help. And when I came here to ABC 27, I came for my interview, and I'm surprised I got the job because I lived on the beach in New Jersey. I literally lived in Ocean City, New Jersey, on the beach. We would overwinter people's houses because they knew where to find us. And we lived in these beautiful homes. And we're going down Front Street with the news director, and she goes, this is the Susquehanna River. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, and you can swim, there's a beach. And I'm like, I don't live on the ocean. But I did take the job, and it was such a blessing to be able to come here. So I have been here for quite a few years now. I don't like to say. It's a blessing and a curse because then people age you. And I'm sure if you've seen any of the promotions that the station does with Alicia and I, you have 15 billion different hairstyles over the last few years. And we just go, oh, we cringe. But so a typical day for me is I was working 11:30 to 7:30. I had my partner Alicia for 5, and then Dennis Owens was with me for 7. And then the pandemic hit. And for us, that was a very trying time because you didn't really get away from it. You're reporting it, you're living it at the same time. So I was home for about 2 weeks. Like all of our home studios, we tried. I have 3 dogs in my house. And so I have a Belgian Malinois, which is a sport dog that I use for Schutzen and sport protection, tracking, and obedience. And then I have Molly with me. And then I also have an old German Shepherd. Well, at the time I had 4 because my other Shepherds. So I would have to rotate everybody out of the house because they like to bark. So I would put everybody in different places, come back and anchor from my living room, and then run back and bring everybody in the house. Thankfully, the seasons were nice and I could do that. But so that's when it kind of changed my schedule. Dennis decided that he wanted to do, he's really great at politics. That is his thing. So he is our Capitol reporter, and he's also anchoring the 6 with Alicia. And so he does news for all around our state and some of our neighboring states. Nexstar Broadcasting is I think now we're probably the largest group with almost 200 stations, and the Hill. I personally asked if we could stop having siblings because I have enough siblings now. Yeah, so we're pretty big. So he does that. And then I transitioned probably about mid 2020 to going back to Nightside, which is actually a promotion because then I started anchoring the 11 with Alicia. So a typical day for me starts at 3 p.m. So I'm up a little early for you guys. And thank you for the lunch, by the way, it was delicious. And so I go in, I look at scripts for most of the day. And a lot of times though, I'm still out and about in the community because you mentioned the boards. So when my schedule changed, the board schedule for me kind of got more, I had to adapt because a lot of times, thank goodness they went to Zoom because I get home at about midnight. I go to sleep maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, and then the board meetings sometimes are 7:45. So you don't have your camera on? Absolutely not. I am sitting in bed with the paperwork, and you're definitely not going to see me, but I am focused. And so I do like serving on the boards, and it's such a pleasure to be able to give back to my community. I got that from my parents. They gave back as a teacher and as a person in the military. And also just giving back to my community when I was an EMT. In fact, it was really funny when they called for I got the job here, and I said, well, who did you call for my, to see if you wanted to actually hire me or not, my references. And they said, we actually called your EMS building. We called your emergency squad, and we talked to your captain. We wanted to know your work ethic. And I said, well, it's a pretty strong one. And I got that from my parents, thank goodness. They've always said, nobody owes you anything. You work hard for what you want. and they were very, made me a independent human being. And I'm so grateful for that. I had a goal. I wanted to buy my own house before I got married, have my own car before I got married. I did. And now I have a wonderful husband. And so just a little side, most people know this, but he works for the competition. So my husband, Joe, is an photojournalist. He is also a FAA certified drone pilot. So all those kids that played with joysticks back in the day, you actually made a living out of it. And he's also their engineer. So he uses the whole side of the brain that I do not use because he's very mathematical. I use the creative side. And we have now we have 3 dogs, and I'll talk a little bit about Molly in a bit. But we have, I talked to you about the Belgian Malinois, and we go to Perry County for about 5 hours on a Sunday where I decompress and train my dogs. So the whole weekend, I got a chance to stay up there with a new trainer and work my dog. And that is my relaxation zone. And then I did do an appearance in between because the Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition had a fundraiser down the street. So I went to do that and then came back and finished training. So it is ingrained in me. I know we were talking about not, saying no, but it is hard because it is such an honor to be wanted by your community. It is such an honor when I go out to those, go out places and people stop me to say hello. And they're like, I know that probably gets older. You probably don't. No, that's a blessing. That's a blessing from God. What, we don't want you to watch? Yes, please come say hello. Each and every one of you as our viewers are very much appreciated. So a little bit about, I guess some volunteer, we talk about Val's Kids too. And that's another one that's close to my heart. We had to do Val's Kids on Zoom for a while. So we made it work, and now we're finally back in public. So I get to go to Hershey Park next week, and I'm all excited. I don't know who has more fun, the kids or me, but we all have a great time. We've been doing that, as you heard. A family friend of mine years ago was a foster mother. She had 90-some babies. Many life books. They send a life book with them so that they can go back and chart, times they couldn't remember, because most of the time she had infants. And being able to share Val's Kids here, it was funny when I first got here. I think there was somebody doing it like years ago before I got here, but it was a different segment. And they said, well, I said, I really think we should do this. And they're like, well, why? I said, well, we do a pet of the week. We most certainly can do a child of the week. We can do both. There's room for both. And so that has grown. So please watch next week. We'll have a new Val's Kid on Wednesday night. Sometimes we will have new ones and then work in some other older ones. And interestingly enough, sometimes the reruns, it's the 3rd time and somebody sees them and they get adopted. My very first adoption, the child was 16. His family could no longer care for him, and he was a wonderful kid. And I got a call from Shippensburg, then police chief. And he goes, Val, I hardly ever watch the news. Thanks, chief. He said, but for some reason I was watching and I saw Warren on Val's Kids. And he goes, we made him our son. And so if it's just one, if it's just one, you made such a difference. I enjoy being part of that chain of people that connects these young kids with their permanent families or loving homes. And I guess we talk a little bit about giving back. So I have to give a shout out because I see so many familiar faces here. And Andy, I haven't served on board with you, but I heard it's probably a fun ride. I've known him for so long. I said to him today, I said, oh my goodness, your kids are now having grandkids. And so, it's been a long time. And Amy, who's also in the house from Humane Society, I have a almost 14-year-old German Shepherd from there. Her name is Deco, and she is a King Shepherd. And just a funny side story real quick. I was having foot surgery, and I had gone in to do a story. This is usually how I end up getting all my pets. So I went in to do a story, and I was chatting with her, and they brought in 2 German Shepherds that somebody left, I believe, at a kennel. And one was a male, one was a female. And so they had some issues. So they had to stay for a little bit. And I just lost one of my Shepherds. And she goes, we have a Shepherd. I'm like, oh boy, I just had a break. She goes, no, we have a Shepherd. I said, okay, fine. So we go in to meet. I came back with my husband, and we go in to meet her. And I was like, I usually do boy dogs. I just, don't they open that door. She runs right into my husband, goes up on her belly, and he's like, we'll take her. So fast forward, we had to wait a few weeks. I had foot surgery. I literally had just coming out of foot surgery. I think I was still a little loopy. And he goes, we have to go pick up our girl. We promised we'd pick her up this day. And it was June 3rd. So I think both of you propped me in a corner because I think I still had slobber coming out. And we pick up Deco. He takes me home and he had to run out to do something. He goes, I'm just going to leave you here. You're going to be fine. I said, yeah, I'll be fine. That dog did not leave my side. She was 4 months old. And she's still by my side to this day. So I was always grateful. We've had quite a few animals from the Humane Society. And so I've always been grateful for that. And I have with me, Molly, here. Just trying to figure out how to get out because you have a. I'll come down for this one. Kind of pretty much. My husband was hoping that she'd fail because he wanted to keep her. But no, she was very bright, so she left. And this is Molly, and she is one of their breeding dogs. And so she had her final litter of puppies. And normally we would give them back to take more in. They were going to pair her with somebody who had autism, but it didn't work out. And I said, we've had her now for like, at that point, 5 years, because they go back and forth. I do not have the puppies in my house. I don't, no. So somebody else whelps and they come back to me. So we decided to keep her. And so her purple vest that she has on now, she is getting her demo dog. So we I go to training with her on Mondays to do that. But we did just get a little bit of sad news is that Molly ended up with inherited glaucoma. So she went to bed one night fine, woke up the next morning and her eye was white. So we had to take one of her eyes and get it fixed. And so she's going to have a little bit of surgery next month. And then eventually her other eye will probably go blind since it's inherited. But she is our sweetheart. And she's going to, since we were already in the process of getting her purple badge, we're going to finish. And as long as she has eyesight, she loves to work. What you don't know is that she's usually sitting behind me on the set. And so, or under my desk. And she's very quiet and she's very smart. So I get up during the newscast, we walk to different parts of the studio. She will not move until she knows I must give her some kind of cue. I don't realize that I'm at the end of the 5 p.m. show or the end of the 7 p.m. show. Usually I take her, she comes half days most days. By that time, she's ready to go home and have her dinner and hang out with dad. So I'll drop her off at lunchtime and then go back to do the 11. But she is definitely a sweetheart. She's very smart. And we just love her to death. So if you're ever thinking about, they need puppy raisers and they need people who can you get some training. They also have people who do weekend. I normally took the advanced dogs. So they need sitters on the weekends. And then it's great. You have a dog and then you can give it back. And then you find out actually where that dog goes to help someone. All right, Molly, with me. So yeah, so she has definitely specialized training that we'll do. So she'll have to learn how to, go through. She'll have to learn how to under, place, good girl, down, nice, stay. You may see the tail wagging, no, down, she is, stay. Yeah, that tail's a killer. I get hit numerous times. But anyway, so that's a little bit about. I'm so used to these that this is more comfortable. So that's a little bit about my life. Thank you all for taking the time to come out to see me today.
Thank you very much, Valerie, for joining us today, for your wonderful presentation, and for all that you do in the community. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for attending today. It was great seeing all of your smiling faces again. Some wrap-up announcements here. We do have an HRF meeting coming up right after this over in the Bridgeport room. No meeting next week, so don't come here. You'll be alone. But we're back at it here at the Hilton on the 27th for our last meeting of the Rotary year in review. Thank you all. Have a good week.